So the idea of AOP is to help you plan those metrics, think about them better, plan your KPIs, and consciously and deliberately grow them, rather than running marketing plans and then realizing that maybe we achieved some of those and maybe we didn't achieve some of those. So this is really the essence of what an AOP is all about. We have been doing this exercise for a lot of our clients. For clients who already very regularly follow AOP, I think it's nothing new. But the intent of trying to figure out whatever your marketing priorities are and then connecting it to digital investments and tracking some of those numbers, I think that is where we want to bring in a little bit of science also. Maybe some of this is very well understood by many of you, but we just want to kind of reiterate some of our thoughts here. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a high level introduction of what we think, and as a result, what is it that you will be seeing over the course of the next 2 days as we put the entire event together. A lot of brands would articulate a little bit of their business challenges or business problems to us, that here is a business problem that I want to solve this year, this is what I want to do. So that articulation of business problem obviously comes from the brand, where the brands are able to explain that this is where I need an agency to help me solve some of these problems. The idea is, from those business problems, we define a charter for the brand for the entire year, that okay, if these are the business problems, then let them translate into proper KPIs, and let me start tracking those KPIs as the year progresses. Then obviously from there we set up our KPI goals, we start proactively working on them. We need to make an active measurement approach also for all those KPIs, and by the end of the year we have deliberately and consciously improved those KPIs through our investments, through our creative thinking, through a lot of opportunities that we have today, and also understanding the broad trends, which are the 8 themes of this particular Elevate event. So I'm going to talk about that also very soon. What kind of brand challenges we see brands bring to us? And I'm sure a lot of you will agree. Sometimes the brand challenge is brand awareness. What is awareness? How to measure it? Why is it important? For me, there are very simple metrics, and the idea is that if we really know a lot of things, how can we simplify things for brands? And this is what we're trying to do today. So what is my brand's awareness? How do I measure it? And how do I keep a track of it is one of the first challenges that brands have typically talked about. Second is my brand's consideration. There are a lot of brands today that have very high awareness, but they don't have very high consideration, which means I know about the brand, but I'm not really thinking about buying that particular brand. How do I change my consideration? Being relevant with younger generation. We all know that today a 20-year-old, a 16-year-old, or even a 12-year-old has a huge influence in bigger decisions of their family. So I'm sure a lot of you with kids would realize that. I've got a 16 and I've got an 11-year-old, and a lot of things about the kind of vacation we should go to, the kind of car we need to buy, or a lot of things including the kind of clothes that I need to wear, comes from a lot of recommendation from these Gen Zs and Gen Alpha for that matter. And I think somewhere we have to understand that they are a very, very involved lot, and they are a very, very aware lot, because they are constantly on social, they are constantly learning about new things, and we don't tend to ignore their inputs, because a lot of those inputs come with huge amount of thought and research. So how do we become more and more relevant with the younger generation? A lot of times business challenges come in form of geography. Listen, I'm very strong in North Indian markets, how do I move to South Indian markets? I'm very strong with South Indian population, how do I move to Western India? So on and so forth. New customer cohorts, like I've already described, I work with maybe, I've been an old brand, and a lot of 35-year-old plus love me, but the younger generation don't relate with me. So how do I bring some of those and solve some of those problems? Eventually, one of the other business problems that pretty much every brand has is, no matter what level I'm at, there's always a better level to achieve. So how do I scale my business? So that is another business problem. Improving lifetime value with a customer. How do I get my customer to spend or buy more from me on a more regular basis? That's another thing. And growing business in my retail stores. Now this is a very, very defining trend that we are seeing, especially maturing in 2023. People are now, so while COVID again has a little bit of, it came again, but the fact is now COVID is not such a big scare, and as a result, people have started going back to physical stores again. And in many, many ways, now people want to figure out how digital can drive business back to the stores. So these are some of the business challenges that a lot of brands have raised to us. We are trying to figure out a charter that how do we measure those KPIs. Business problems for each brand is going to be very different and unique. So how do we fix the problems for each brand? How do we build the entire AOP? And from there, because now we have evolved certain amount of metrics, how do we make sure that we can consciously and deliberately improve those metrics for that particular brand through a mix of media, technology and creativity is what as an agency we are able to deliver. So yeah, that is what we have. We have built the entire charter, which we're going to take you through over as we move through the entire session. But these are just general thinking around how you can improve some of the KPIs. What are the KPIs that you would want to look at? Most important KPI that I'm saying, because I saw something on LinkedIn that there are so many KPIs, so many metrics that we are all tracking in digital, and it is full of them, CPI, CPM, CPC, conversion rate, all of that. What is the fundamental KPI that can be almost like a very important litmus test? And I would say you can never grow a brand if you don't have very good search volumes. So the fact is that the core of everything is that can you improve the search volume for your brand? How do you build it? How do you grow it? Can you subdivide it? Can you say that in this particular geography, this is the search volume? So the fundamental of awareness today in the way I look at it, and especially because we've all gone through this entire peak of performance marketing, and we've seen in 2023 that performance marketing alone doesn't work for the brand. They've not been able to scale up beyond a certain level. So the fact is, if we don't go back to the fundamentals of improving the equity for the brand, which in digital world is very well measured by search volumes, we will not be able to grow the brand. So this is going to be one of the most important parts of the charter. How can you improve it? We're going to go through all these sessions. How do you build consideration? What are the things that you look at in consideration? So paid traffic, organic traffic, those are the kind of things that I would look at. What are the KPIs that I need to look at, and what are the metrics? So while awareness is a function of reach, consideration is a function of frequency. So the more frequency you will see on an engaged audience, the more salient your brand is going to be. How do you drive engagement? What are the KPIs to measure? So website conversion rate, glance views on Amazon, those kind of things would come in from a consideration standpoint and driving engagement standpoint, even visits to my store, right? And then what are the platforms to use, and what are the metrics that I'm going to measure? And similarly, conversion rate, so which is the final conversion, which is how my revenue is growing, how my add to carts are growing, how my glance views are growing. All of those things will bring in a lot of outcome on my overall revenues. What are the platforms, and what are the metrics that I would look at? And finally, one of the most important thing is a customer on its own. When you look at it, there's a equation between the average order value, the first time that a consumer transacts, and there is a acquisition cost, which is the CAC. Sometimes that ratio doesn't look good at all. The point is that the ratio can improve if the same customer keeps coming back to you again and again. So then you have to track the lifetime value and the loyalty of that customer, which is where the entire marketing automation, the retention strategy, upsell, cross-sell, a lot of those strategies would come in, and that's the last part of the AOP. So I just want to give you kind of a high-level thinking on how we have devised the AOP charters for various brands, and this could be very useful. The platforms, whether these are on D2C, whether these are on marketplaces, Amazon, Flipkart, etc., we're going to talk about it. Yeah. So this is the brand charter. Towards the end of the presentation, not right now, we're also going to talk about the AOP structure. How can you build structure? We will be very happy to have one-to-one conversations with any of you who wants to understand how to build that entire AOP planning for your brand specifically. So we could do a deep dive into your brand, your competition, understand where metrics are, and from there start projecting how December 2024 should look like for your brand, and then how those KPIs need to be tracked, and how do we make changes in those KPIs, how do we make them move. So that's roughly, I would say, is a segue into my next session now.